And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're going to be looking at the most recent signings for the Washington Commanders. We're also going to be looking at some free agency updates. We're going to be looking at the players that are coming back to the Washington Commanders and the players that have decided to move on to other teams. And so let's start with the most recent signings here for the Washington Commanders, and starting with Jacob Martin, defensive end and edge rusher that is coming over from the Chicago Bears. I believe this is on a one-year deal. And so he came in the league in 2018. He played for the Seahawks. He played for Houston for 3 seasons. Then you see that he played with the Jets, Denver, the Colts, and then the Chicago Bears this last season. And so I think immediately the one thing that stands out is just his ability to generate a pass rush. I think that that is the one thing that is really going to stick out with Jacob Martin, is his ability to really cause some pressure. And I think that that is something that the Washington Commanders definitely want to add to their defense. You're talking about causing chaos on opposing quarterbacks. And when you do that, then that throws off the timing of the offense. With our secondary, which I think has gotten better here via free agency, perhaps going to get even better via the draft, I think that now you're going to generate maybe some natural turnovers that way with the pressures that Jacob Martin can certainly generate. And I also think the next thing that just really sticks out here is just his ability to pursue. I think that his motor, when you look at just some of the game footage for him, is just he will definitely pursue and just try everything he can do to get home. I think that as quarterbacks try to climb out of the pocket, I think I saw a couple plays where he was able to climb with them and then go ahead and eventually make the sack. And so that was good to see. And in fact, just talking about the sacks, look, he had 3 sacks in this last season with the Bears. His career high was 4 in 2021, so not bad. I think that he's going to get some opportunities with this defense. And I think he's going to get it in a way that it's situational football. I don't think that he's necessarily going to be a player that starts every down, but I do think that he is going to come in and maybe be a bit of a specialist for us and be that player that is going to generate some pressure up front, be able to collapse the pocket. I think he's going to be decent against the run. So I think at times you can maybe throw him in there too if you need to try to stop the run. So maybe Jacob Martin is the answer, but I think he's going to be more of just a solid rusher of the passer. Like, I think he's going to be able to just get some sacks and get some things kind of started that way. And so, I love that. I think it is definitely a value signing for the Washington Commanders here. I think it's something where you're looking at just, okay, this is probably the best case scenario. I think that there's a chance that he does get to the best case scenario because he's a player that he can either line up from a 3-point stance. He's a player that can, be standing up much like a linebacker. So the techniques, you can put him at a 5, a 7, a 9, any of those techniques. I think he'll be just fine. And I think he can be an impactful player as a situational player, but just not an every down player. But I do like that the Washington Commanders are really adding to their pass rush. And so next up, the next player that the Washington Commanders have gone out and they have signed here, that is going to be now they signed offensive guard Nate Herbig. And so he has been a bit of a journeyman, I think, in the NFL, but, he's been solid for the most part. And I think that what you get with this signing is a player that, for one, we know he's had some experience here. He had, 17 starts, I think, with Philadelphia through the 2021 season, before heading to the Jets in 2022. And I just think that you get a player that's had some experience here. It's a 1-year deal. And I think that this maybe gives the Washington Commanders some flexibility as far as what they can do on the offensive line. I think that he's played even a little bit of center, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And so I think that, look, this is a player that he can become a very good value signing for you, especially if you end up losing, an offensive lineman via injury or they go down for a couple weeks. This way you have a player in your building that has some experience. Certainly, I think that, the continuity is going to need to be there for the offensive line. It seems that Adam Peters and this front office is really geared towards protecting Jaden Daniels. And so I think it's a solid pickup. Like, is it going to be something that immediately puts us into Super Bowl contention? No, I don't think either one of these signings necessarily do that, but they're both solid signings. And so because of that, I like just the direction here that the Washington Commanders go on both of these deals. And so next up, I wanted to talk a little bit here about some Commanders that are coming back now to us. And so I think that this was just as equally as big as just going out and picking up some of these new players to come to the team. And so let's go ahead and start with, KJ Osborne. And so, KJ Osborne, I wonder about him. He didn't really do as much, with the Washington Commanders this last season. And we do not have Zacchaeus. And I just wonder, could he get back to being a player that could be a contributor? And I'm not saying he has to be super impactful, but can he go out? Can he get you anywhere from 400 to 600 yards in a season? I think that, there's plenty left in the tank here. I'm not saying that he has to be, a day one starter or anything like that, but maybe he becomes a contributor this season. And so I think it's solid. I mean, it's a low risk, maybe a bigger reward here at the end of the day. It's just a 1-year deal. I like the fact that they do bring back Michael Dieter. Again, you bring back some players that have been with us. You bring back some more continuity up front on the offensive line. And I think that you're adding again to the fact that you have some linemen here that if somebody goes down, you have some players that are familiar with the offensive system that we like to run. I think that that is the same thing with Trent Scott. I like that you bring back Sheldon Day. We just talked about Noah Brown. I like that we have brought back Noah as well. Look, I think that that actually adds a lot more to just the secondary and just adding a little bit more depth to that. I think that now you have some players there. I do still think that the Washington Commanders can certainly upgrade this. We've talked about this before. Maybe they still are players in free agency. I believe that Asante Samuel Jr. is still out there. So that's a player that I think is very interesting. He's intriguing. And there's also, I think, a lot of players in the draft that maybe the Washington Commanders could go out and get in the secondary too. Nick Ballard, look, he was terrific on special teams. So I like this signing as well, bringing him back. These are players that have been in your building. They understand the winning standard that you're trying to build. So I like, just all these signings. I think that this is very good value for the Washington Commanders. And so next up, just looking at the players that are no longer going to be with the Washington Commanders this season. And so we talked about a couple of these, but look, Cornelius Lucas is going to be headed to the Browns on a 2-year deal. As you see, De'Ami Brown over to the Jaguars. We talked about that one. Jeremy Chin to the Raiders. But we have Derek Forrest that's heading to the Bills on a 1-year deal. You have Walker, who's heading over to a 2-year deal with the Cardinals. St. Juste is heading over for a 1-year deal with the Chargers. We didn't talk about that. Zacchaeus, I believe it's a 1-year deal to the Bears. And then this last one here is Dante Fowler Jr. It looks like that he is headed back to the Dallas Cowboys on a 1-year deal. Much was talked about, especially with the tweets and things like that. It just didn't seem like he was going to be back. And so we see now that he is not coming back, which is why I think that Jacob Martin, really, I think he could be a player like that. Like, I think he's going to be a player that is going to be able to kind of line up, get into that three-point stance, and again, come from that linebacker position. And I think that he has a chance maybe to do the things that Dante Fowler Jr. did this last season. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you're thinking here about this most recent news. Do you think that, Jacob Martin, that was a solid signing for the Washington Commanders? Also, too, let me know what you're thinking here about Nate Herbig. Do you think that, yes, that was a good signing for the Washington Commanders? And then just recently here with this news with the Commanders we see coming back, the Commanders that are leaving the team, let me know what you're thinking here. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.